Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and today I'm joined by Gina Scarpa. How you doing, Gina?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
That's great. Gina, you are a voiceover artist. You've done a lot of Genshin Impact. You're on The Walking Dead Last Mile. You play Adam Eve for Invincible Universe, and so many other things. Can you kind of break down why did you go to voiceover work? It seems like such a fun and creative job.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love it. So, right out of high school, I discovered radio and I was an intern at a radio station for about 6 months before I ended up on air. And I was on the air for almost 10 years in Connecticut and New York. And after radio, I moved on to entertainment reporting and podcasting. I was the editor in chief of 2 reality TV websites and interviewed people from like every reality show you can think of. And about 10 years ago, I kind of started to miss radio, but didn't really want to go back to it for a lot of reasons. And someone said, you could try voiceover from home. And I really didn't know anything about the world of voiceover. So I got a pretty terrible microphone and started doing little projects on Fiverr and Upwork and was just kind of chugging along doing that part-time for about 6 years. In the meantime, I was working at my family business. I went back to school and got my degree, raising my son. I was doing a lot of other things, and voiceover was sort of like a hobby / side hustle. But when the pandemic hit, my sister, who's an actor in the city in New York, told me, I feel like you should. She took a class with a voice over casting director, and she said, you should try to do this like for real, instead of little projects, like let's see what could happen. So that year, I upgraded my microphone, started auditioning for bigger jobs, got an agent in New York and LA. By the end of that year, I booked my first national commercial. In the very beginning of 2021, my first video game, and that was it. And I just love it. I grew up playing video games. Even as a kid, I was like making little recordings of myself. And so voiceover has just been full of so many amazing things. I just love talking about it. I coach on it. I teach on it and speak on it. And it's literally like just 24/7. I eat, sleep, and breathe it.
You could feel the passion, and that's
Yeah, I
exciting.
love it. It's the best. It's awesome.
So you talked about, starting off on radio, you were at KC 101 and then you're at WPLR. What did you learn from those that you still use today?
Yeah, I mean, some people would say that radio is kind of a deterrent to voiceover because, of the radio voice or, when you're on the air, it's like you're talking to the whole state, and voiceover is often very one-on-one. But I did learn a lot of great things in radio. First of all, just audio production in general. I worked quite a bit in production. So I used Adobe Audition the entire time, or it used to be called Cool Edit. I feel like such a boomer, but it was called Cool Edit. So, we had to edit winter phone calls, and we only had 3 minutes to do it because everything was live back in the day. And so definitely audio production, learned a lot about just improv and talking really naturally because I did a morning show in New York. So I learned a lot about that. And I think just being creative and finding my own personality. So radio was really amazing. My first boss at KC 101, his name is Kelly Nash. He still works in radio. And it was, I'm so old. So like 25 years ago. And even to this day, I thank him because if it wasn't for him taking that chance on me, I absolutely would not be where I am today. So I'm grateful for everyone in radio that opened doors for me. And it was a very competitive business. It still is industry. Very hard for women to get jobs in stations. Like every station maybe had one, so it's already hard enough to be on the radio. And then it's just, 80 to 90% of the talent on air were men. So, it was just, I'm very thankful for all the opportunities I got. I learned so many things, and it definitely paved the way for me now.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, looking back, now that you said that, I'm starting to think back to like when I used to listen to that Talk Jocks in the morning kind of thing. Yeah. It always seemed like it was 2 male hosts and then 1 female is almost kind of like bouncing ideas off of. Do you think, I know you're not in the industry necessarily now, but do you think that's shifting over time?
It still seems like it's usually, even the morning shows that I listen to around here, it's like 1 female for every 2 or 3 males. Even like Elvis Duran in the morning, like on Z100, and it's syndicated, there's Danielle and there's Gandhi and a couple of others, but, that's gotten a little bit more evenly distributed. But I would say, as I'm just kind of thinking through everything, and even on the show I was on, it was me and me and a male co-host, and then we had 2 like sidekicks that were both guys as well. So it was just, it was hard. I don't think I've ever heard a morning show that's like just two women or like two girls and then a guy. It's very interesting. So I don't know how much has changed, but with syndication and automation happening so much in radio, it's an even tougher industry to break into now.
Yeah.
And I hope it doesn't go away. Like, I just have a soft spot for radio. I love it. I do a lot of commercials for iHeart. So that's been really nice. And yeah, I love it, but it is voiceover too, super competitive. I guess radio kind of prepared me for that. Voiceover is insanely competitive, and so was radio for sure.
Well, that's the thing with voiceover, right? Is you're having to submit to everything and so many versions of the same thing. So yeah, you're hoping that it's the lottery pick that you get a role that you've been wanting.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, some auditions I do have maybe 50 to 100 people that are reading. Some have hundreds, some have thousands. I mean, it's really competitive. And in voiceover, I don't know if people know this, but we do custom auditions. Like, I don't just submit. I mean, sometimes I get cast off my demos, which is nice. But I would say most of the time, it's a custom read. So I need to, read it, record it, edit it, submit it. And so, when you're doing 20, 30 or whatever auditions a day, that's a large part of your day. And then you're hoping you're the right person, so I feel like every job I get, I'm super thankful for. Like, it could be an e-learning project about a medical clinical trial. And I'm like, yes, like when I book it, I'm like, I did it. I'm competitive and I get really excited, and I'm very thankful for everything I book for sure.
Yeah. And then, you went over from radio, you went over to Reality Wanted, and That's Your Reality. You're editor-in-chief. How has that kind of grown your career in voiceover as well? It feels like seeing how the inner workings of entertainment industry would have really helped.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely helpful. Like, two areas that I work in voiceover are promo, so like doing network promos, and also doing TV narration. So definitely spending a lot of time in the television industry and covering things was very helpful. I also built a lot of the relationships myself when I was doing reporting. So when I left radio, I really knew like one person at NBC, and that was it. And from there, I reached out to CBS and said, okay, so I'm working with NBC on The Biggest Loser. Could I do Survivor and Big Brother and The Amazing Race? They said yes. Then ABC said, sure, you can do The Bachelor. Then Fox said you could do Hell's Kitchen. And MTV said, and I just kept reaching out to people. And voiceover is so much about relationships and networking. And I feel like definitely doing reporting and podcast hosting, I learned a lot about direct marketing, and then my degrees in marketing with a specialization in SEO. So my marketing background has definitely come into play on a regular basis. And I'm still in touch with some people that I interviewed from reality shows, like people that were on reality series. Like, we still follow each other on Twitter. Sometimes we talk to each other. And so that's been nice too.
Oh God. When you said SEO, that's my ears go up. It's like, man, that's amazing how much everything you do, you got to make sure SEO optimized. And even as a podcast, all my show notes. Yeah.
I'm always yelling about SEO. Like I said, I teach quite a bit, and I'm always telling voice actors, like, what people will often tell you is just a one-page website with your demos that are downloadable and your contact info is enough. And that's true. It is. But I'm like, do you know how powerful your website is? Like, do you know how many things it can do for you? And so it's a massive opportunity. And I feel like it's definitely helped me grow my career as quickly as it has. Because for a lot of people, it can take a long time. And I think that the business and the networking side has benefited me in a lot of ways, for sure.
Yeah. You work with so many big brands, and you've mentioned your commercial work already. How do you keep those voices distinct? Do you have to really kind of put your mind in, like, all right, this is for Nintendo, family-friendly company, focus this way? How does that work out?
I definitely do a lot of commercials. So like right now I do like Hungry Root, Orange Theory, Cinnabon, Uber, and Prilosec, and so many others. And so one thing that I've learned about voiceover, a lot of people come to me like brand new to voiceover. They want coaching or they want to do, consultation. And they're like, I could do like so many funny voices. Everyone says I do like a great impression of this or that. And I was so surprised as I got further and further, especially into the professional world of voiceover, like how much of it was just me. And it really made me look at myself and say like, okay, like what am I like when I'm sarcastic? What am I like when I'm happy? What am I like when I'm playing video games? And so that's been really nice. And even in video games, like, in Genshin, I play like a woman who's, 85 years old. So yeah, like I'm doing an old lady voice, but like Adam Eve for Invincible in Fortnite is like, it's just me. It's just, I guess it's me like, in the style of Adam Eve, but it's more like I try to think to myself, like, if the brand could talk, if the brand was a person, and like if Starbucks was standing in front of you, this is how she would sound. And so that I love doing commercials. It's really fun. And just like all these different colors of my personality come out. And the best compliment I get in either sessions or when someone hears a project is like, oh my God, that's so you. I'm like, yes, okay, great. Because in the beginning, I felt like I almost didn't even it sounds like so stupid, but it's like I didn't even know who I was. And voiceover has like made me look at myself and be like, this is me. Like, take it or leave it. And the more I embrace that, the more I feel like I book.
Now, in my experience with other voiceover actors, a lot of what they're doing is they take their base voice and they'll add elements here and add elements there to create new characters, and that becomes a new character. Do you feel like it's kind of almost like a mathematical equation for you where you're adding and minusing certain elements to create your new characters?
I guess that's true. Like, I think like, okay, is this person going to talk higher or lower? Like, do they have kind of a more gruff sound, or is it like bright and happy? And so I think about what are the qualities of that person's voice. But it really, like, for me, I think about who that character is first and why they talk that way. And sometimes I feel like people, when they're first getting into voiceover, are like, I'm just doing this voice because it's a voice that I can do, or they're like, and so I try to think about, obviously, like in Genshin, like Professor Zaha Hadi is like, she's old, so she's gonna have like, a little bit of weather in her voice, and maybe she's got a little more nasal to it. She's, and so I think about that too. But yeah, creating character voices is always fun and interesting, and definitely like if you think about some adjectives to describe it and then go from there, that's very helpful.
Yeah. Now, again, your work on Genshin Impact and Walking Dead, and as Adam Eve, of course. Do you have a favorite role?
I mean, I'm really loving playing Zaha in Genshin. She's so funny. She's, very wise, but she's very hilarious. And she fights with she fights with other people about, I don't know, the tomatoes in her backyard and all kinds of things like an old woman might. So she's very fun. But I do love Sarah Kaysen in The Walking Dead. It was about a woman, the character is about a woman who had sort of lost everything and only had her dogs. And I love my dogs. And I don't know, at the time, I just really, the character really resonated with me. I won Female Game Performance of the Year with that role. And so, to be able to be in The Walking Dead was really incredible. So that's definitely a standout. And then I also am in, if anyone plays VR games, there's an awesome zombie survival game called Survival Nation. And I play Riley, who's the head of the survival camp. And that's just fun because I love giving out the quests. And that's, I'm just a huge gamer myself. So getting to play all these different roles is, like literally a dream come true. I was just playing Diablo before I came to talk to you, and that's probably what I'll be doing the rest of the night.
That is a great night right there.
I'm having a great time. Season 4 of Diablo is amazing. Got my Necro to level 100, and I'm in the middle of leveling. Really? Yeah, Minion Necro. I'm in the middle of leveling a rogue and testing out Poison Rogue. So, I play like, I was just playing X Defiant last night. I play League of Legends, play a lot of Rust, because apparently I have the need for punishment.
Exactly.
Magic, the Gathering, Hearthstone. So, I love gaming, and so getting to do games is just, more than I could have ever asked for.
Yeah. Right now we have World of Warcraft coming in a couple months, another expansion. So a lot of my friends are like, all right, everybody, play what you need to play before that comes out.
Because when it comes out, exactly. I play every now and then. I used to play, oh my gosh, so much back in the day. And I'm always a human priest. And every time I'm like, I'm going to do something different. And then, nope, I'm just right back, starting over by Stormwind. I'm like, if anyone needs me, I'll just be a human priest. As per usual, I don't know. It's like my comfort pick. I always come back to it. Plunderstorm was super. I know there was mixed reviews, but like, I liked Plunderstorm, and I had a great time. I played it all the way to the end to get all the cosmetics and all the rewards. I had a phenomenal time and got a few wins. That was very fun.
Yeah, they got the Pandera remix right now, so I know we're getting distracted, but that's what I'm doing right now is the Pandera remix.
I could talk about video games all day.
Well, let's go back to Walking Dead Last Mile. You played Sarah. You won the award for that. How do you prepare? That character's very emotional. How did you prepare for that?
Yeah, I definitely I feel like being in my 40s now, gross. I feel like I've lived a lot of life, and so I'm able to look back at like, the highs and the lows. And I feel like one thing I've really realized is that you really, for me, I bring everything into the booth, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the hard times. And so, I spent a lot of time just, I went through, I've been through anxiety and depression. So, for me, I spent a long time thinking about that and thought, why is Sarah the way she is? Because she's really tough. She's sarcastic, she's defensive, but she's a person who's lost everything. And I really wanted that to feel real. So I had such a great time. The team was phenomenal. I really enjoyed working with Skybound on it. And, I ended up getting to work with Skybound again when we did Adam Eve, when we did Doc Seismic Attacks. So that was really nice. But yeah, I mean, I got the scripts in advance, so I was able to spend some time with them. But I didn't hear anybody else record. So it wasn't until, the game and the episodes were out and, there was a lot of things happening on Facebook Live with it, which was so cool, where I got to see it all come together. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I always am trying to think of, what does this remind me of? What can I bring of myself into it? And yeah, it was such a phenomenal experience to get to be any part of the Walking Dead universe. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah. Do you ever play the games that you're in, or you try to avoid those?
What's so funny? I don't play the games that I'm in as much as I play, I guess, other things. I don't know why that is. I really don't. But I do like, if my commercials are on, I'll listen to them. I definitely go watch a lot of streamers. Like, I had a really fun time, watching the streamers playing Genshin and doing the playthroughs. Same with Survival Nation. There was like some really funny streamers that do just VR content, and they, they kind of talk back to the, to the characters of the game, which is so fun. Same with Minecraft Dungeons and Dragons. There were some great streamers for that too. So I almost like seeing other people play it and just kind of seeing what their reaction is more than, I guess, I like playing as myself. But there are some games, I don't know, like, that would be really hard to avoid if I ended up in it. Like, if I was ever like, I don't know, an operative in like Call of Duty, like, I'd have to just play as myself because I just have a long-standing love for COD, and I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's another one that's got a new one coming up and I'm excited about.
Yeah, I'll definitely be playing 100%.
Do you think you pay attention to the voice actors more in gaming now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm always paying attention to people. Like, one game that really stood out to me, I loved during the pandemic was I played Borderlands 3, and I just really love the voice acting in the game. Like, I often will think about like Lilith and Tannis from the game, or Mose, and just, I don't know, like their standout performances. I mean, I become friends with a lot of people too in this industry who voice characters that I really love. So like, I don't know, like, someone that I've have a wonderful relationship with is Jennifer Hale, who is like Ash in Overwatch and, Samus in Metroid and all these other characters. And so like, when she reached out to me, I was like, oh my God, it's Ash. Like, this is so crazy. So hearing my friends in games too, and people that I have a lot of respect for, have a nice relationship with, is also really cool. So yeah, I'm always paying attention when new games come out. I'm like, who is that? Like, I totally know. So I'm going to look and, go on IMDb or see who the cast list is. But yeah, I'm definitely more mindful, even of commercials. Like, if you're driving in the car and you're listening to the radio and the commercials come on, you probably change it. Not me. I crank it up and I'm either listening for my friends or I'm listening to be like, okay, like that's what's working right now for this brand, or that's what, that's who got cast in this game. So I don't know. It's like an all-encompassing, probably too much thing in my life.
It almost sounds like there's a little bit of a fraternity of voice actors where you guys have a community where it's kind of cool to be supportive and learn from each other.
I honestly was so surprised at how supportive it was. So my background is in theater, and, there were a lot of good things that I liked about theater, but one of the things that I always struggled with was I found it to be like super competitive, which of course voiceover is as well. But like, people didn't always want to share information, like not even what song they were singing in an audition. It's like, who cares? Like, it's so dramatic, like stop, and in voiceover, I was so shocked by how welcoming people were. For sure, there's people online that are like annoying and negative sometimes, but like more often than not, everyone has been so supportive and welcoming of me. It almost like caught me off guard at first. Like, I almost didn't trust it. I was like, what is this? Like, why is everyone being nice to me? But it is, we just have an understanding of each other. We share a lot of information about, everything from like, what certain projects should pay to how to handle agents and all kinds of things. So the community has been definitely one of the best parts and a huge surprise to me. I'm very, very thankful. Everyone's been beyond nice to me.
That is so cool to hear. Moving forward, you founded the Positive Voice Studio. Can you kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, sure. So actually, Positive Voices was a studio that I started in the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. And it was meant to be a performing arts studio for kids and teens. And we opened in January of 2020. So like, LOL. We all know that ended
Yeah.
really fast.
Great timing.
And I needed to, we had so many things planned and I needed to adjust and think really quickly. So on the one hand, I could have just closed it, but I started to slowly move it over to becoming a voiceover studio. We had a location in Connecticut that we ended up going totally virtual. But it started with me teaching all the kids and teens that were creative from my hometown area how to do voiceover because everyone was home and didn't know what to do. And lo and behold, they started booking like crazy. Walmart, Target, Nintendo, PBS, two of them dubbed a movie. I mean, in like the height of the pandemic, like we were doing stuff. So I just kind of I was like, okay, so like I feel like the universe is telling me like there's more to do here. So as time went on over the last 4 years, we've now grown into, we have a roster of kids, teens, and adults. They're from all over the country. So we do voiceover casting, we do classes, we do writing and editing, audio production, voice direction, all kinds of things. And it's been really wonderful because I've been able to give people so many amazing opportunities. And that's kind of my attitude. Like, don't take it personally when I don't get cast in something. Sometimes people will come to the studio and say, like, let me hear 5 females and you could read too. And then they pick someone else. And I'm just like, okay, like, I don't care. Yeah. I'm happy to give it to someone. So we do a lot of different things. Sometimes we do free voiceover classes throughout the year just to make it accessible for everyone. And I love it. I work with my sister. She's the studio manager and she's an equity actor in New York and also works with me. And so that's been nice too. We're Italian. We got to work together. What else do you expect from a bunch of Italians except to work together? So
everything's a family business.
It's like we just grew up in a family business. Our whole adult life was spent in a family business up until my parents retired in 2019. Even when I opened the studio, my mom was, when we had the physical location, my mom was at the studio all the time helping. So, but I love Positive Voices. We have coaching groups and all kinds of things. And it's been really, really nice. I mean, part of me, sometimes I'm like, do I really have the time to be doing this whole other thing? Right. But I'm very committed to uplifting the community, the voiceover community, giving a lot of opportunity, continuing to spread like positivity and education. And so I don't see it going away anytime soon. If anything, it'll just keep growing as it already has.
What a cool side hustle at first, but now it sounds like it's hearing that passion again out of this.
Yeah,
so
cool. Here it is. It's just like we've done so many great projects. I mean, in recent times, like we've cast with L'Oreal and Amazon and Disney. And so it's just been, one of the kids that I work with just worked with an art museum, and I give a lot, especially the kids and teens, like a lot of them get their start, like their first voiceover booking with me. And that's been nice. And we do coaching as well. So, I coach a kid who's going to be on a Nickelodeon show, someone on Disney. And so, like I said, this is, if I'm not in the booth, I'm playing video games. And that's it. There is nothing else but voiceover and video games.
You've nailed it. I'll tell you that much. That's a good way to go.
That's it. I'm living the life. I'm in my pajamas every day doing voiceover and playing video games. Like, what more could you ask for? It's great.
When you're coaching these young kids who are just starting their careers, what's some of those early mistakes you see that are pretty often in the youth?
I feel like maybe that they feel like they're acting like they're really like it feels fake. It feels put on, like, they're doing a commercial and they're talking in a way that's like, when I wake up in the morning, I like to eat vitamins. I'm like, okay, no one talks like that. Like, so I think the great thing about my relationship with the kids and the teens is I keep it real with them. I'm hard on them, but we joke around. We have a great time. They know I'm super supportive of them. And so it's really about them feeling comfortable with themselves. And I feel like as teens, it's incredibly important, like being open, being vulnerable, like just being yourself. Like, you don't need to put on an act. Like, you as you are is enough to book. And so it's like, it's beyond just voiceover. I feel like I'm trying to help them as people too. So I really enjoy working with youth and kind of raising the voice actors of tomorrow, which is nice. But I'd say that's probably the biggest one. And then just educating them, especially again, the teens, about the scams and voiceover, the things you need to look out for. Sometimes people will reach out to the teens, through social media or whatever and offer them a project, and they run it by me and I'm like, literally no, like, stop talking to them right now. That's a scam. Like, don't speak to them. They're like, oh, okay. Like, I thought it was legit. I'm like, no, it is not. So that's really nice. I mean, that's where the coaching interest came from, was working with kids and teens. But then I think adults started to see the success I was having and, wanted me to coach them individually, or people asked me to teach classes, and, here we are.
Yeah. I really appreciate the fact that the value that teenagers get when you're in those teenage ages, and so many times you're just not sure about your identity or who you are, or unsure about yourself. And in voiceover, when you're trying to be someone else is when you can find yourself. That's a really great, valuable lesson there.
I think it's so nice. I mean, if there are things that make you different, like I feel like it's embraced in voiceover, and that's really nice. So, it could be anything from like whether a teen is, kind of confronting their gender identity, their sexuality, whether they struggle with autism, mental illness. I have kids with physical disabilities, like one is in a wheelchair, most of the day. And it's like all of these things make in fact, the one who has physical limitations and is in a wheelchair most of the time, just got a project because he has the disability and they wanted someone who had that lived experience. It's like, it can be hard enough to find a teen voice actor. There's not, there's a million adult voice actors, but there's not like a million teen voice actors. But like now I need a teen voice actor with a physical disability, and I need that person to be in a wheelchair. Like that is extremely hard.
Right.
So, he got it for being who he is. And it's his first like official booking. And it's like, I love this. I live for this. So I'm always encouraging them to be exactly who they are. And I hope that carries outside the booth, because I feel the voiceover has changed me like from it's like so cheesy, but it's like literally from like the booth out. Like I am a different person than I was, even 5 years ago. And it's because voiceover has made me really just open up and I don't know, just be who I am. I always tell people when I first started voiceover and I was doing the professional world of voiceover, and I was trying to come up with my branding, I asked everybody on my Facebook page, like, describe me in 3 words. And I thought everyone was going to be like hilarious, sarcastic, like, and everyone was like, nice, warm. And I was like, no.
You're wrong.
I was like, I was like, no, say funny. But they were like, yeah, but like also like you make everyone feel like a friend. And so when I started to look at the way the world saw me and thought like, okay, I don't need, and that sarcasm a lot of times comes from, being guarded. And I was like, I'm going to try to let those walls down and just be the person that people see me as. It's like, whoa, it has been so freeing and honestly very healing. And so I try to bring that to the teens too. And they are so awesome. They're so receptive. I feel like people often dismiss teens and feel like you're young, you don't know. People say, Gen Z or, Gen Alpha, it's like you're lazy. It's not true. They have so many important things to say. And it's like, I love giving them a voice, like literally on a microphone. It's awesome. It gives me a lot of joy and pride working with them.
I have heard so many times growing up, oh, the millennials are so I'm not passing any of that down to the Gen Z or Gen Alpha around here.
I say they have so many interesting things to say about the world. I mean, I coach a senior in high school who I speak every year at my former high school, which is, again, very healing and cathartic because high school is not my best moment. But and so every year I speak at Career Week. This is, I think, my 3rd year. And, the teens think it's cool, but they don't reach out. They don't say anything. And so this one kid reached out to me in November of last year. No acting background, just said, hey, like, I just want to like learn about voiceover. Within 6 months, he had set up a whole studio. He wanted to get started on Fiverr. I said, sure, let me help you with that. He made enough money to quit his job, and he's going into college with this business that he has built. He has a booth and a mic, and I'm like, look at this, and I tell him, you really have more drive and like you're more fearless than a lot of the adults I coach, because they're worried, like, what if I fail? What, I have to support my family. You have other things. And this, 17-year-old's like, I literally don't care. Like, let's go. So, I mean, they're great and they have business sense. They're very concerned about the world and, accurate representation, all kinds of things. So, I mean, teens are awesome. And I hope that like people, I don't know, maybe through hearing them and hearing about this, start to think about them in a different way too, and not always dismiss them as being like silly, lazy, and whatever else they are.
Man. Yeah, definitely not around here. That is so
they're
freaking cool. Now, as we're hearing, you have a multifaceted life with a multifaceted career. How do you balance it all?
I have an autoimmune disease, probably from and a vitamin deficiency, probably from being in the booth all day. I said to my doctor, like, I don't feel good. I feel like really run down. She's like, I mean, you sit in a 3x3 box with no sunlight. So like, yeah, I would feel bad too. I'm not not going to lie. I'm not the best at work-life balance because voiceover, I feel like is my whole life. So, it is hard to do that, but I feel like when you love what you do, it almost never feels like work, even in projects that are, maybe long long, tedious, or whatever, for whatever reason, frustrating, which to me, I feel like almost never comes up, but it's like, I just love it. So it's just, I don't know, like all day, every day, this is just what I do. I do try to I try to take time for video games, sitting outside with my dogs. I've been more focused on my health definitely since the autoimmune liver disease diagnosis 3 years ago. So just like trying to eat better. But yeah, my sister's always yelling at me about my work-life balance. She's like, get out of the booth. Sometimes I'll text her at midnight and be like, I'm still in here. She's like, leave. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm sorry. I had to do this audition. I couldn't miss it. But yeah, I'm not the best at the work-life balance. But that's okay.
I feel you. Like when you're a podcaster, you're also your own marketer. So
Yeah.
there are so many times where I'm like, oh yeah, probably should be doing something else. Or luckily, yeah, the dogs would be like, hey, we're ready to go play. I'm like, okay, good. You guys told me to take a break. I'm gonna take a break then. Let's do that.
Yeah, I'm my own marketer, me and my sister together. And it's like,
Yeah.
so what I'll do is like on a Sunday, I'll schedule all my emails for the week that I need, I want to do for marketing. And I'll make myself this is not the part where I eat healthy. I make myself like a giant tray of buffalo chicken dip and just like reward myself as I do the work. Or I'll do it like in between league games. I'll do it like while I'm doing like a Magic draft or something. And I'm like, see, it doesn't really feel like work. I'm just alt tabbing. It's fine. Just like sort of in between. Yeah.
Oh God. Alt tabbing is like the key to working from home,
dual
guys.
monitors. It's all about dual monitors. On
I got three of them.
While I was playing Diablo today, my right monitor was like my inbox, and I just kept looking like the auditions were coming in. I was like, oh Lord, I got to do that.
But it's grinding season right now. Gotta get that.
I gotta get the next character to 100.
Exactly.
I gotta do the pit in Diablo.
Is there any projects you're currently working on or you have coming up that you're pretty excited about?
Well, yeah, I mean, so in Genshin, I made my Genshin debut last year and just showed up in the most recent expansion. And so that's been really fun to kind of come back to it because I didn't know I was going to come back, which was super fun. So if you play Genshin and you're sort of following Tignari's quest line, you'll find me, Professor Zaha Hadi. Sometimes she interacts with Kaveh as well. I have 2 more games coming out this year. One that's really big and I'm so excited and I can never say anything about anything. But, if you want to follow me on socials, believe me, I'll be yelling about it. Yeah, I mean, other than that, like maybe you'll hear me on, if you listen to iHeart or you're listening to the radio or watching TV, you hear me on some commercials. I just did a big radio campaign with a brand that I'm super excited about too. It's so hard because I always want to talk about. There's one game I recorded the character. I mean, as I feel like it's been a year and 3 months, and I'm like, hello, like where? I mean, the game is out, and I'm like. Like, where's the part where can say? So, like, every update, I'm, like, reading the patch notes. I'm like, no, like, what? So, the hardest part is, like, keeping it a secret. But definitely some really awesome gaming stuff coming up that I'm just super stoked about.
That's cool. I was just talking to AJ Lacasio, who does the voice for Gambit for X-Men 97.
Awesome.
And I was just like, come on, dude, you're coming back for season 2.
You're like, no,
It's like, no. And he's like, you'd see a red dot right here if I said anything. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, like, I cannot say anything. Oh, yeah, we signed those NDAs, and it's like, whoa, I'm always scared to say anything. Sometimes people, like, will say something on social media, and it's like, I'm like, I don't think you can say that yet. So I am, like, mega, mega careful about what I say. I'm good about it.
Yeah. Well, Gina, it has been an absolute delight. If you guys want to find Gina, she has a podcast, DSP Talk, which it is about New Yorkers, you were saying, correct?
Yeah. It's I host it through the New York Alliance for Inclusion and Innovation, and it's just they hired me to host it, and it's actually really interesting. It's about the life of direct support professionals and how they help people with disabilities live a more fulfilling life. I have learned so much. I've been hosting it for the last year and a half and absolutely love it. People can go to my website, which is ginascarpa.com, and it's the same like Twitter is just literally just Gina Scarpa. My big places are Twitter and LinkedIn. If you're like more business minded, or if you're not and you just want to be on Twitter, you can follow me there. And my studio website is positivevoicesct4Connecticut.com.
We're going to have links to all of that as well. And we're also going to have a link to your newsletter. What's your newsletter about?
I mean, I just give people updates. So, like, if there's classes coming up, so, definitely let everyone know when I'm doing free classes. Sometimes I'll talk about, an upcoming project that I'm really excited about that I can announce. But, I really try to be, if you've ever had the interest to do voiceover, I'm really try to be very welcoming and, make people feel like this is an achievable dream. It feels kind of far away when you're on the outside and you're like, but how do you get into video games, or how do you, become the voice of a network or a brand commercial? But, my goal is to keep the doors open and to welcome people into this awesome industry and community. So I'm more than happy to connect with anyone who, might be interested or just kind of wants to be a fly on the wall and watch the journey.
I appreciate your welcoming nature and to the community. That is really neat. That's cool.
Thank you. I feel like people were really, really welcoming to me when I made the, transition away from Fiverr and Upwork into, agents and managers. And I definitely want to pay it forward. And it really brings me a lot of joy and fulfillment to be welcoming to people.
Shout out to Fiverr, by the way, on the side, just because there's so many times where I'm just like, I can't design this. Let me find somebody.
Let me tell you what, Fiverr gets a kind of a bad rap in voiceover sometimes because the rates are not amazing. However, and in the beginning, when I was making that transition away from it, I felt like I needed to denounce it. And now my attitude is like, this is my journey and I don't apologize for it. Yeah. Fiverr did so many good things for me. I learned a lot of good things. I eventually just felt like I had kind of outgrown it. I didn't need it as much. I didn't need it anymore. But it was a really important stepping stone. I learned a lot of things, and it was great to me at the time. Heck yeah. It was wonderful.
Well, again, Gina, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that is going to be it for us. Make sure you follow all the links in the description. Follow Gina on her journey, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
See ya.